Hello, everybody. Ron Callis here with another episode of Automation Unplugged. It is currently Wednesday, August 15th. We are just about 12:30, and I hope this recording finds you well, or if you're live, even better. Let me jump over to Facebook as I do every week just to make sure technology is cooperating. Let's see here. Let's see if we are live. All right, there we are. Looks like we're live. We are going to jump right into it. I'm going to bring in my guest, longtime friend of mine and friend of the industry, Mr. Gordon Van Zuiden. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for the invitation, Ron. I'm looking forward to spending the next half hour or so together with you.
Yeah, likewise. I appreciate that. Audience, if you're out there, please like this show. Please give us a comment if you're going to have any questions for Gordon. As we go through a bunch of fun topics, definitely I'll do my best to read those off to Gordon and get some replies. If not, then we'll do it after the fact via the comment section of the recording. But Gordon, let's jump into it, sir. So you are the owner and operator of cyberManor out there in Northern California, correct?
That's correct. We've been at it for about 20 years now, so it's been a fun ride.
Well, I always love to get into the background of my guests, and I know a lot of the folks that are watching and listening to this recording are also enjoying hearing about the backgrounds of the people that make this industry tick. And you have been a mover and shaker in this space for a long time and a thought leader. So where did you come from? How did you end up landing in this crazy industry?
Well, it is a crazy industry. I landed in it coming actually from an IT background. I had an IT integration company here in Silicon Valley through most of the 80s and the 90s, and had the opportunity to sell that in kind of the mid to late 90s. And right about the same time, broadband internet was coming to our residential area. They were replacing AOL dial-up, if you remember those days. So I was always in the local area network, wide area network space from my commercial IT background. And it seemed like there was an opportunity now that we had an always-on internet connection to introduce that service to the home. So the early days of cyberManor were essentially to create a small local area network in the office so that everybody could share one line for email, for serving files, for printing. And the birth of cyberManor before Cisco Linksys and Netgear and all the rest were to take routers that were off the shelf and program them so that we could share that broadband access across 2 to 3 PCs that all could be network ready. And it created for the first time a live, always on, non-dial-up way to be on the internet in the home. And that seemed like that had a lot of promise, not just for the sharing of data, but pretty soon perhaps the sharing of audio, the sharing of video, control and the like. And sure enough, over the next 10, 15, 20 years, the home is now completely a digital infrastructure. And that birth that happened in 98, 99 has now matured into the smart home that we talk about today. So that was kind of the background and my kind of introduction into CEDIA and the channel was actually courtesy, I recall very clear, of Jeff Hoover. I was on a Cisco integration group with him back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And he was writing a column for Residential Systems Magazine on internetworking. And in 2001, he'd done it for a couple of years, and he says, I've kind of run out of ideas on what to write. You need to write this for me. So I said, okay. And then he said, you have to be part of CEDIA to do this. And I said, what's CEDIA? And kind of the rest kind of fell into place. And here, 18, 19 years later, I still write for Residential Systems because I haven't run out of things to talk about. And it's been a lot of fun. So that's quick history.
I know that when I was introduced to you, I got involved with CEDIA maybe back around 2010. I've been attending CEDIA since 2000. So, this will be my, I don't know, I got to do the math, maybe my 19th show.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's maybe a similar time frame to you. Of course, I was just coming out of college, and your business was a few years old at that point. But in terms of my introduction to you, it was kind of as the app guy. But before apps were cool.
Right.
This was back at that time. I was with, I think, Crestron, Lutron or Crestron.
Right.
And
right.
we were out there talking about this universe of controlling the home with apps. Are you still where did that come from? And do you still have that? Is that the way you practice your integration business today?
That's a great question. And like so many things in technology, if you kind of look back over the years, they seem to swing back and forth like a pendulum. They kind of go mainframe to micros back to the cloud, and things kind of shift back and forth over time, depending on the technology and what makes sense. And I think apps follow that same logic. We were doing a fair amount of Control4 in about 2006-07 timeframe when that had first come out, for all the reasons you do a single kind of total home control platform. And we're just finding that at that time, that platform was difficult to maintain, keep up and running with all the new entries into the smart home space, and get that done in a timely fashion when the alternative back then was just put Sonos in with a Sonos app, or Lutron with a Lutron app, or Nest app. So in those early days when there were just 3 or 4 or 5 critical, well-performing apps and manufacturers, it seemed like there was a lot of overhead associated with doing total home control if the goal was just to have a simple graphical interface for those devices. So that really nurtured my belief in the kind of late 2007, 8, 9, 10 period that apps were the way to go. It was just driven by our experience with it, our customers' reaction to it, and that resonated with everyone. Well, fast forward to 2018, that smart home now realistically probably has 10 to 15 apps in it. I mean, we have everything from irrigation controllers to fan controllers, digital art controllers. I mean, we front door locks, front door entry stations. So that app has gone from 3 or 4 to now 10 or 15. So the same creep we saw with remote controls on the coffee table, we see the same creep in the home. So now the homeowner's faced with 10 to 15 different apps, or 10 to 15 different remotes for their skylights or their fans and the like. And it's just gotten to be too many. And so you combine that with the maturity of a platform like Control4, and Savant could be the same way in Elan. It now starts to make more sense, in my opinion, both for ourselves and for our clients, to bring that together, one interface. And it's not just the interface that relates to the GUI and the richness of the GUI, whether it's on an app or their own proprietary screens, but increasingly by voice. And we'll talk about that too. But having them as kind of the conductor, the mediator between the devices and voice, allows us to do some really cool things. Let's say in this case with Control4 as a platform to all these devices, and use voice as a front end. So the pendulum has really swung the other way now, and we're back to the traditional core. Great strength, I think, of the custom installation business is to provide these really intelligent, robust home automation solutions.
As a business, do you choose to take the fully integrated home customer as a client and turn away if someone just needs a door lock automation system, or singular system, multi-room audio, maybe Sonos, maybe thermostats, Nest? Do you turn that business away today, or do you find most of those customers a C4 type fully integrated control system is the way to go?
It's interesting. I think that as the visibility of companies like Control4 and others have gained traction, certainly them going public and doing well lately, a lot of people, increasingly a greater percentage of an audience knows about that company, knows at least to ask some of those questions. So I think we see more people inclined to leverage that kind of platform. But having said that, there's still a ton of people out there that just want a Sonos system, just want Nest, maybe just want Lutron and the like. I think to directly answer that, if it's Sonos, our core strength, like most people, is in audio and video and distribution of audio and video and lighting control and like. And we'll do those systems. But if all they want is a Nest thermostat, and we were down that path when Nest first came out, and we were one of their first resellers and on their portal, that just didn't work. It basically, somebody's calling us up to put $150 thermostat in, and we're responsible for their HVAC system after that. It's just not a good fit. But they want to do a Sonos system and responsible for their music system. Well, that is a good fit. So that's how that works.
That's interesting. As a marketing agency, I have all shapes and sizes of businesses knock on our door.
Right.
And I think it's fair to say that in the, I'll say 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, I was having these companies kind of surface that were these app-based integration firms, or at least that's how they imagined themselves.
Right.
And I haven't seen that lately. I certainly haven't seen that in the last 24 months. And I'm wondering if they've experienced what you just described, which is serving a customer or trying to service a customer if you've gone in and just put in an app in a very low-cost system. How do you take care of that customer long-term? Or it sounds like that'd be challenging.
Yeah, I think, I equate it to, platforms take a while to really gain. I mean, the ultimate goal for a manufacturer is to have kind of the established platform. I think of, the early days of Microsoft. You could do a WordStar program and be outside the Microsoft environment, probably do well on the PC. But as the years went on, if you came out with a word processing package and you didn't write it into the Windows environment or the Mac environment, you were going to be isolated. And so that kind of pendulum or that fulcrum swings is when you get to be large enough and significant enough that, let's say, as an example.
Hey, Gordon.
Yeah.
I think we just had the video freeze.
Okay, let me log out and come back.
Just so the audience knows, in testing we had this freezing. I think there's an internet issue maybe on his side. But the good news is he comes back in about 5 seconds as he relaunches. Hey, look at that. Like magic. Snap your finger and he's back.
Well, the point I'm trying to make in terms of when I think of almost like a seesaw, when you get to the point when you're large enough as a platform that instead of you as the platform have to write the drivers and the interfaces to make these third-party systems work within your platform, you're big enough that the third-party people realize that if they don't write it for that platform, then they're not going to gain the market traction that they otherwise would. And I think Control4 and probably Savant and others now begin to enjoy that. So we're seeing increasing. I'll give you an example. We're not really in the outdoor heating space. And there's a company called Infratech Heating out of Southern California that actually was at a Tech Home Expo that came with their people and their product. And they said, normally this outdoor heating is just sold through kind of our outdoor heating channel. But we've now developed a Control4 interface for it. So as a Control4 and an Alexa interface, now we're talking about something that attaches to the network and attaches to the voice, and it's a different skill set to get that part of it working for an end user. And they came to us in our channel to be able to do that. And that's a great example where in the past, Control4 might have had to reach out to extend their umbrella to this product, and now they're coming to them. And now
what is outdoor heating, by the way? I don't
think well, in Florida you probably have enough of it.
Yeah, no, in Florida we have enough heat.
Right. But here in California, people want to spend more time in the evenings and kind of the shoulder periods, fall and spring. A lot of our affluent client base looks to these outdoor heaters. I mean, you see them in restaurants all the time, but increasingly these are basically electronic-based infrared heating systems. That the best way I can express it is, we're in the business of outdoor entertainment as well as indoor. So people can enjoy their outdoor entertainment another 2 to 3 hours longer because they're comfortable and warm. And we facilitate that through an easy interface. Then we're doing our jobs better.
Let's jump topics. Voice. I know C4 had a big announcement. Their integration with Alexa. Obviously, magnificent news, I think, for our industry. Mr. Charlie Kindle has joined C4. For those that are watching, just Google C4, Control4, Charlie Kindle. You'll read all the news. I haven't looked at their stock recently, but Control4 had like a 20% stock jump in a single day. When that news, I'm actually going to check it out right now, see if I can get to it quickly. When that news was announced, let's see if I can look at it here. Yep, there you go. So Google C4 stock, and you'll notice this launch north and it's then plateaued. That happened when Charlie joined C4 a week or two ago. So what's your take on the Alexa integration and voice and the demand from the consumer?
So it's a really interesting topic. I guess just again, try to put perspective on these things. Voice has been out there only for the last 2-3 years. Comes in a lot of different form factors now and different manufacturers. And I think it's like all relatively new technologies. And always good to understand what it can do, what it can't do, what it could do down, in the near future. But certainly, it's gained a lot of traction, it's gained a lot of momentum, a lot of interest. I think I read somewhere there's now 50 million households in the United States that have an Amazon Echo product. So incredible acceptance rate on that product. As it relates to what we do, a couple of interesting tacks on that. One is, obviously none of us make any money selling an Echo product. That's not the point here. The point is not the margin on the product. But what has been really attractive for us is we've built this Control4 Certified Showroom at our office, and we built it with the intent to showcase the best of what these various intelligent subsystems can do. And what I mean by that is it's got Lutron motorized shades, and it's got distributed audio, and it's got distributed video. It's got a Heiku fan. It's got a motorized skylight from Velix. It's got an intelligent front door station. It's got an Ecobee thermostat. It probably has a dozen intelligent devices in the home. And when we walk into that home and we say, Alexa, turn on home, and it goes, I have Alexa here, so she's going to wake up. She wants to reach. That's one of the problems. But anyway, when we say that, we basically showcase how we go into this house, and it goes from a dark, uninviting, closed, colder place to within 30 seconds lit. Fan turns on if necessary because it's warm. Music turns on. Shades come up. You go within a 30-second period to a cold house to one that's already there, welcome with the music that you want and turn on. And it's a very powerful demonstration to our clients of what integration really is about. I mean, before that part of the story, we could create those kind of scenes going to the touch screen and saying welcome home and do the same thing. But when you can do it by voice, and I can tell anybody to do that by voice, I don't have to tell them where the touch screen is, what button to push, whatever, and just say, talk to the Ecobee in this case, and make that happen. It's very compelling. And it's compelling also in the reverse case as you leave the property. You can imagine, this is only 1,000 square foot townhome, but if you have a 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 square foot house, and in one voice, you can arm the house, you can turn off all the lights, you can turn down the shades, you can turn off the fan, any AV systems, to all those things within 3 or 4 words. It's the best of what we can do. And to make that happen with a $50 Echo probably requires a 6-figure back-end system to make it happen. So we're just facilitating our products to work better with voice. And that's really been encouraging how that's worked out.
So you find the addition of voice, and I feel there's demand from the consumer, but there's a number of integrators I've spoken to that have resisted or will try to talk the client out of it due to other challenges. You find it more good than bad, if I'm interpreting you correctly, because it requires a robust back end, and that should be really good business opportunity. Is that accurate?
It does. I think that's, for the most part, accurate. Robustness also applies to the network itself, right? The wireless infrastructure and the wired infrastructure. But I think the most important part is to understand it's not even that relevant whether you think voice is appropriate today or not, because it's all part of a platform that just continues to scale up. We always have to connect all these devices across the network. They're always going to be talking to the internet. We're going to create that as robustly as possible. And we're going to have graphic touchscreens on the wall and mobile devices as well. So adding voice is a very, very simple layer upgrade. In fact, almost the end user could do it themselves, except they want some customized scenes. So it's not a question of whether, we want to showcase the full range and depth of our solutions, and then we can scale it to whatever is appropriate for the client. And then they can know if the voice, they don't feel like the language or the lexicon is appropriate for them or and what they want to do right now, fine. It's something that we can very easily add 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road. And that's kind of the approach. So
if you're out there, ladies and gentlemen, please post a comment, please please share this feed. That's the way your friends and peers in the industry are going to hear this content and hear what Mr. Gordon Van Zuiden, one of our industry experts and rock stars, has to say. So please do that. I'm looking forward to seeing some comments posted. Gordon, I want to change topics again, and this has actually an interesting tie-in from this show, right? You were watching one of these shows last summer, and can you tell that story, and I'll let you lead into what I want to talk about.
Sure. So and I don't even know how this was kind of happenstance, maybe one of your emails or something like that. And I saw that you were going to have Blake, kind of maybe
Blake
watch this,
Ricketta.
Ricketta. I was trouble. Blake Ricketta was going to be on your show. And I've always been kind of intrigued by Blake, as a lot of people are, with his personality and his enthusiasm. And so I said, I'll tune into your Unplugged show and listen to what Blake has to say. And I heard firsthand about kind of his initiation with Lutron and his kind of starting of the channel with lighting control, and then moving to Tesla with battery technology, and now most recently this company called Sonnen out of Germany with also battery technology for the home, and his strong and fervent belief that the field of energy management and control was going to be a next great opportunity for the custom integrator. And that was Kool-Aid I had already kind of drank even 40 years ago, because I was involved at Westinghouse as a young engineer on what's called solar assisted heat pump technology, which was, I lived in a house that had solar panels that were air based, and they were pumping the air into rocks. The rocks were heating up so that if you couldn't use the hot air during the day, the heated rocks would flow the air through the house, and you'd have the hot rocks providing heated air during the evening hours. So the same concept of harnessing the sun when you couldn't use it at that time in some kind of storage medium. And that's, of course, fast forward to today, we have photovoltaics, and now we have battery technology for storage. And Blake told the story on your show about what Sonnen was doing uniquely in that space, and their history, and the quality of their products. And we had put solar panels up at CyberManor, and I thought, and we had Control4 there as kind of our operating system. And Blake was saying, we now have a product, and we're coming to the integration channel, because we're more than just battery for solar. We're now going to leverage platform products like Crestron and Control4 to understand things like the energy usage in the home, which those platforms have, to understand weather forecasts and to integrate that into what you might want to store or not store from off the grid, and start leveraging that home control platform and its intelligence and its programming capabilities to maximize the functionality of a battery. In terms of how much grid power should you get, how much solar power should you get, with the ultimate goal that you want to create almost as much energy as you can from the sun and use it across 24 hours. And if you can't, purchase it at the cheapest electrical rates as possible. So that's what he was discussing on the show, and I was fascinated by it. I reached out to Blake and said, we're really interested in what you're doing in that product. Blake said, this is exactly what we would like to do as well. And so about a month ago, we got one of their EcoLinks 10 products. It's a 10 kilowatt hour battery. We put it in the showroom, and we've been testing it for the last couple of weeks. And for the showroom itself, the 12 solar photovoltaic panels that we have on the roof pretty much provide now all the solar that we need across a 24-hour spectrum using the Sonnen battery. So as opposed to having solar that was just kind of excess and then had to go back to the grid, or was kind of wasted during the day, that's fully charges the battery over the course of the day, and then our showroom consumes that battery storage over the early evening and evening hours, ready for the next day when it gets stored again. It's been a great experience.
Are you running the electricity in your office during the day from the solar panels on your roof, or do you purchase power during the day and then during the night run it from the battery?
So it turns out, fortunately, we're in sunny California, as you are over in Florida. Yep. With those 12 panels, we get an excess of solar energy during the course of the day, certainly in the morning, more than we need for the consumption of the showroom. So all that excess is really what uses to charge the battery. So the battery may start at 10 or 15% in the morning. It gets charged to 80 or 90% because of the excess solar that we don't need for consumption. And then when noon hits, that's our peak rate time of day. We pay 53 cents a kilowatt hour at noon, between noon and 6, as opposed to 12 cents a kilowatt hour during off-peak. So at noon, we make sure we don't use any grid power at all. So from noon on, we'll use solar power, but as the sun starts to set, we're going to get less and less of that, and then we have to turn to battery. So at that point, it shifts to battery, and that battery that was at about 90% starts to decline 80, 70, 60% over the course of the day. But we never use grid energy during that period of time. So
how is that configured? I'm curious. Let's say that you don't want to be using purchased power at peak energy cost times. How do you define, where is that configured? Is that configured inside of a Sonnen dashboard online, or is it inside of a C4 dashboard? or does it all happen automatically? How do you set that?
So great question. Some of the initial configurations that's done through Sonnen. So you basically tell Sonnen what your on-peak and off-peak tariff times are. So I can tell within the battery software that do not use any grid energy at noon and only use grid energy again maybe at 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night when it's cheaper. So that level of functionality is built in. There's also a level of functionality that says don't let the battery drain past 10 or 15%, because I always want to use it as a potential backup source to our networking gear, irrigation, garage door in case there's a power failure. So it creates kind of a backup for the whole house in that sense.
Right.
But when you want to start doing more sophisticated things, such as understand what the weather's going to be like for the next day and the consumption rates, and back that into how much grid power you're going to get during the previous evening versus how much you can expect you get from solar and what the demands are going to be, that becomes more of a C4 related software item. And a gentleman named AJ Brunson out of Syntegration is doing a lot of that software work for Sonnen and C4. I will say today we find really useful, and this is really the initial bridge between a Control4 platform and Sonnen and these energy management platforms, is AJ's written a driver that you can see on any C4 screen right now exactly what your solar is producing, what you're consuming, and what the battery's charging or not charging, and what's going to and from the grid. And I call that the Prius screen, that we could show the same screen that we're doing lighting control and shade control and thermostat control. You click another icon and we have what I call, quote unquote, the Prius screen, which means you can tell when your foot's on the pedal or not on the pedal. And the pedal I define as, if you turn lights off, you can immediately see your consumption go down. You can see what your solar is producing, you see what your battery level's at. So you can start modifying your behavior in real time to adjust your energy usage. And I think that's very, very powerful, especially when we have it on all these C4 screens around the house. It means at any given moment, somebody can see exactly what they can do to improve the efficiency of their home's electrical usage.
There's good science on that, isn't there? That if you simply give people visibility of usage, that it will likely tend to change their habit or give them an inclination to change their habit.
Yeah, I think more than science, there's proof. I mean, there's 10 to 15% reductions just when people know that if they do something at that current time that will save them, gas or fuel mileage, or will save them electrical consumption, they're more inclined to do it. Otherwise, they really don't know what's occurring, so they're not going to make those changes. So I think that's really promising, and that's where the bridge is between what we call our expertise in home automation and management to energy automation and management. And I think those dovetail very closely together now with products like these.
What do you think the business acceptance rate by integrators looks like? What do you think your peers? How do you think the folks listening and watching to this? How should they? I'll ask it a little bit differently. Is this a category they should pay attention to, and if so, why?
Well, definitely a category to pay attention to, and I think they're gonna hear it in pretty loudly at CEDIA Expo this year, because I think Sonnen's going to do a pretty major rollout of their product, or I know they are. It's one of those things where, as it relates to energy, I think it's very much regionally dependent. It's obviously going to be motivated. It's motivated by doing the right thing for the environment, obviously. But here in California, there's a lot of proactive programs as they relate to solar and all homes built by 2020. And real drives to kind of reduce these peaker plants. This, what we're facing right now is almost too much sun during the day and not enough people having any kind of storage during the evening hours. You heard that from Blake. So everybody's rushing the utility for the same amount or more energy utilization, and that's not helping their story out. So I think where you find areas that are a combination of good sunshine and a high disparity between their on-peak and off-peak rates, you'll start to see the economics really start to make more and more sense. And those tend to be, I certainly know from California's perspective, that may be true in Florida. But interestingly enough, that also tends to be the strongholds of a lot of the integration channel as well. So I think in your given area, if you have an affluent base that has those kind of features, certainly, look to clients that are driving Teslas and have solar panels on their house, and you're talking Control4. Well, this seems like a pretty natural augmentation of what you're now doing.
No, I agree. And so for everyone out there, and I'll put this down in the show comments, Mr. Gordon Van Zuiden is actually going to be on a panel and I'm going to be on that panel as well on Friday at CEDIA on, let's see, where is this going to be? This is going to be called the Smart Stage.
Right.
On the show floor at what, 12 o'clock on Friday?
Yeah, I think 12 to 12:45. Yep.
12 to 12:45. So I look forward to hanging out with you there, Gordon. And I guess I'm honored to be up there with you, but I also feel like I was a bit of a connector here. I think I introduced Blake to you. I think I introduced him to AJ over at the C4 coding operation, and then Troy over at Pantech, who is creating the Crestron driver for Sonin. I think, I'm glad
you mentioned Troy's name, because there is activity across other platforms as well. Yep.
Yeah.
So you're a great connector for that stuff. For
sure. Yeah. There's a new Netflix, it's new-ish Netflix show called Bill Nye Saves the World. I've been a Bill Nye fan since my youth, when he had his science show on PBS. And Bill's mantra is, save the world. And I think, we're doing our little part here to save the world and make it a more energy conscious place, and bringing this technology to this industry.
Yeah, the way, sometimes the way I look at it is, we have this great fun industry, and we have great, really wonderful entertainment, comfort, secure environments for our clients. But in many respects, it's just making really wealthy people just have nicer lifestyles. This is an approach towards doing something for the planet. We leverage our intelligence as it relates to programming and automation and control and display technology, and we just can do better things for the environment and for the planet. So that's a nice offshoot of this stuff.
No, I agree. Well, let's close on this. So CEDIA is around the corner. Obviously, there's big Sonin release that you're going to be at their party and on the show floor, and potentially. I just see a comment that was posted, so I'm going to read that here in one moment.
Sure.
But what else has you excited about CEDIA around the corner?
Oh, meeting the people again. Every year it's
you just froze, Gordon.
Oh, here, let me unfreeze.
Do a quick restart. He'll be right back, folks.
Back in motion.
Yep, you're back in motion.
It's always fun. It's like an extended family that you see a few times a year. People like yourself, instead of seeing you on the screen, I can actually shake your hand and all that good stuff. So that's probably the most fun. But secondarily, kind of cruise around the floor, meeting with the vendors we've worked with always in the past, maybe seeing some new ones, looking at what Julie has to say about upcoming technologies that are the show that are interesting. We're always in a space where we have our tried and true products, but it's probably never been more important to understand what are some of the peripheral products. And most specifically, I think with Emerald buying the show and this now new cooperation of design and National Kitchen and Bath Group in our showroom, we've done actually a fair amount in the master bath suite as it relates to technology. We have a automated valve that works wirelessly and with voice. We have a TV behind a mirror. We have an electronic new heat floor mat, motorized shades, music, and a whole range of things that make the bathroom a high technology space. And I think that's another room of the house that we can really add some value. And as we understand it, the designers and the integrators understand it, we can share that vision with our clients. And I think that'll be a very dynamic space for us. So there you go.
That's awesome. And Gordon, I also look forward to seeing you at the show and all the other friends that we've been hanging out with and playing in this fun industry for the last 20 years. So I look forward to that. I will mention, Gordon, Kelly posted a comment. She said she can't wait to hear more about how energy management progresses. So it sounds like we're hitting a chord there with one of our viewers.
Well, tell Kelly, one of the things I've had the luxury to do in the last week and a half is we actually wrote a detailed case study of our experience with the Sonon EcoLeaks 10 battery at our facility. So we really take a deep dive into its functionality, how it works, the software parameters, the cost parameters. So stay tuned. That shall be distributed at Expo, and happy to share the knowledge we've gained through our friends at Expo.
I definitely will. And you froze again on me there,
Oh,
Gordon.
okay. One last unfreeze here.
Yeah, one last unfreeze. Let's see here.
Okay, there we go.
Awesome. Well, Gordon, on that note, I want to sign off. We've been on for 35 minutes. You've been very generous with your time pre-show and here live with our audience. So it was great having you on, man.
Likewise, I really appreciate it. I appreciate what you're doing for the industry by having these shows put on a regular basis. It's great.
Oh, it's my pleasure. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was another episode 49 of Automation Unplugged. So what am I going to do here? I'm going to give you some show art so you can see. Here's our lineup. We're going to start doing this every show so you can see who we're going to go live with that month. So here you can see Gordon with show 49. Next week, we've got Trey from HDMI Staffing. We had a bit of a false start with him a couple weeks ago with some technical difficulties, so he's agreed to reschedule and come on with us. And then we've got the infamous Jimmy from Surgex, and he's an industry rock star. If you don't follow him on Facebook, you'll learn how to do some good barbecuing just by following him. And let me clear that. So, folks, have yourself an awesome rest of your day, an awesome rest of your week, and we'll see you next time, next week, 12:30 Wednesday, here East Coast time for another episode of Automation Unplugged. Thanks for joining, and I will see you soon. Thanks, guys.